This is also a week when anything can happen, it's unpredictable, and Amina Mohammed, the Deputy Secretary General, has unfortunately been called on to attend something uptown, and she can't join us this afternoon. But Amina is a person, and many of you may know her, who casts a light and has a reach even when she's not in the room. So with your indulgence, I'd like to talk about her anyway, and maybe give you a little bit of a flavor of a few of the messages that I think she would have wanted to convey to this room in particular. So Amina is one of my favorite people on the planet. She's a woman I admire enormously, whose passion, determination, intelligence, impatience, guts, and sheer ferocity for action is widely known, always respected, sometimes feared, and in a good way. I first met her when she served on a high-level panel on global sustainability that was grappling and struggling with how to help countries, including how to push them, how to nudge them, how to inspire them to put themselves on a truly sustainable path. It was a few years ago, and that was the panel that first floated the idea of the Sustainable Development Goals, way before the SDGs were cool or anybody else had ever heard of them. And she threw down immediately on some of the toughest issues that we're still dealing with today. How to empower women when the rules of the game are stacked against them in so many ways. How to turn sustainable development from an agenda about aid to a summoning of solidarity and universality. How to tackle the great climate challenge of our time and turn it into a driver of decisive economic transformation and transition. And you all know her path after that. She was immediately tapped to advise former Secretary General Ban Ki-moon on how to take this idea of SDGs forward and make it real. She then went back to her own country of Nigeria to serve as Environment Minister, where she struggled with putting the SDGs into practice day in and day out. And after having left New York not too long ago, I know she personally found it difficult to return so soon. She had family pulls, her country pulled her, but she eventually was unable to resist the Secretary General's call to action because she realized what a consequential time this was, and she felt called to serve. Now, you know, the SDGs have a lot of mothers. They have a few fathers as well. And they have midwives and partners and collaborators, agitators, lots of cooks in the kitchen, and that's all wonderful. I was one of them. But I also think it's important to say, and for all of you to know, that we wouldn't have the goals without Amina. And in her, we also have one of our fiercest champions for change and for getting the goals done by 2030. So even when she's not in the room, she'll be in another, and I guarantee you she'll be busting a gut working on something that will never be unimportant. So I know it might seem a little bit weird to be talking about someone who's not here, but I wanted to do that because her example is important to all of us. Because we all have pulls, we all have priorities that tug us, distractions, confusions, but this is a time when, like Amina, we really are all called on to act. We're called on for common purpose, and we're called on to serve. You know, you began today with the haunting poem, I Still Rise, by the civil rights icon Maya Angelou. And at its heart, that's a poem about resistance and about struggle. But it also speaks to empowerment and determination and solidarity. Now, it was written at a different period, about a different set of challenges, but its words still resonate. And if we are to solve the persistent problems that afflict today's world, poverty, instability, inequality, and discrimination, then we too are going to have to struggle and remain steadfast and determined. You know, the SDGs had a difficult birth. They were forged in a difficult political climate, we're clearly still in one, with anxieties and tensions in various arenas and in the immediate aftershocks of the global financial crisis. That they were born at all is testament to their validity, their logic, and the urgency of achieving them. You know, in 2 years on, real progress is already being made. The SDGs have jumped from the General Assembly Hall to communities, to families, even to boardrooms around the world. And we can celebrate some notable wins, including on climate change, which is so intertwined with the global goals and our ability to reach them. And this week alone, we've seen important announcements on climate, on new partnerships, on nutrition, on health, on education, on how the private sector can mobilize to advance the SDGs and climate action. And of course, much remains to be done, especially to keep faith with our commitment, which we all made resolutely, to leave no one behind. Now, I know Amina is disappointed not to be here in particular because it is precisely people like you whose ideas, whose imagination, and whose impatience we need to mobilize. And I know she especially wanted to talk to you about partnerships, about finance and about innovation, and the new ways we need to work together to drive and deliver results. The things you've been discussing here all day. And we will find future opportunities for her to engage with you going forward. You know, the SDGs are ambitious. There is no point pretending otherwise. Progress will be hard and it will be a struggle. But where did lack of ambition ever get anyone? You know, if there was ever a time to summon our highest and best aspirations for our kids, for our families, for our communities, and our world, to rise and to rise together, this is surely it. So I just want to conclude by thanking all of you, thanking you for everything you do every day, for your leadership. Thank you for not minding that I'm not Amina Mohammed. I really am especially thankful for that. And can I ask you to give her a big round of applause that she will hear even from Soho, because I know she's listening. Thank you. Thank you.
We need to come together to stop the fear, xenophobia, and hatred that is dividing humanity.
10 years ago, Nelson Mandela called on us
to work together as the elders,
to lift the voices of those who are least able to express the freedoms we work for.
as we approach Mandela's 100th birthday.
We are now calling on people
around the world to work
together
to pursue freedom for peace, justice, health, and equality.
It starts with courageous conversations.
Find someone who is different to you and walk together.
Join the bright web of hope that's building around the world.
Walk together.
Walk together.
Walk together.
Continue Mandela's long walk to freedom with us.
Hello. As the president of Search for Common Ground, I have the privilege in my day job to represent over 600 full-time peace builders working in some of the most challenging contexts in the world, with teams on the ground in Yemen, Syria, Central African Republic, Myanmar, and 30 other countries. Today I have the added privilege of moderating a panel with three truly global heroes of peace building and justice. They hail from 3 different continents. Their backgrounds are about as varied as you can imagine, but they're going to be united here on this stage today for their common commitment to peace and justice, and their extraordinary track records of actually achieving results in those areas, each in their own way. Before I bring them up, I just want to share with you a bit of a context for this panel. The 2030 Global Agenda and the 17 Sustainable Development Goals that give it its meaning and its content are there aimed to reduce poverty and suffering and to create the conditions within which all people can live in dignity and have a real shot at fulfilling their human potential. And while violent conflict is only directly addressed by one of the goals, Goal 16, its prevalence today is threatening the progress on every other goal. 10 years ago, 80% of humanitarian aid went to the victims of natural disasters. Today, 80% of humanitarian aid goes to address the needs of people whose lives have been turned upside down by violent conflict. In fact, the World Bank last year had to revise the report that it put out in 2011 on security and development, from one of its findings saying that violent conflict is one of the causes of poverty and suffering, to violent conflict is now the primary cause of poverty and suffering in the world. So our panelists today are going to help us understand the relationship between peace and peace building on the one hand, and all of the other development goals that are critical for human life and prosperity in the future, on the other hand. And with that, I'd like to introduce our distinguished panelists. First, Mary Robinson. Second, Ernesto Zedillo. Actually, right here, sir. Yes. And third, Emmanuel. Sit in the middle. Wonderful. So I'd like to start by enabling each of you to share your own perspectives on this central question of the relationship between peace and the Sustainable Development Goals. Mary, you have been a truly transformative figure at every stage of your career, from a barrister to the senator, the first woman president of Ireland, to High Commissioner for Refugees at the UN. Human rights, excuse me, I'm sorry. Thank you very much, sir. Please give us your insights into this question, Mary.
Well, first of all, it's great to be here on the International Day of Peace. Symbols matter, a particular day matters, and all over the world, people are thinking about that. Secondly, I come from a country that was torn by the fact that there was not peace in the northern part for a very long time. And it took a huge effort of the United States, of the European Union, of the two governments, the British and Irish governments coming closer together to bring us that peace in Northern Ireland. So I know how hard it is to bring about sustainable peace. And it is all that you were describing. It is development, it is hope, it is the prospect for mothers that their children can get out of the trap of being kneecapped and being part of IRA or loyalist violence and live. And it was women who helped us enormously to create that peace. And we have to remember that. It was a really interesting. The women came out from the housing estates. The men were completely divided. And the women said, look, we can't have it like this. We've got to move forward. And, you know, as President of Ireland, I was bringing together these women because they were very instrumental in creating peace. When I became High Commissioner for Human Rights, I realized in my journeys to some of the worst affected countries, affected by conflict, affected by poverty, suffering hugely, how incredibly important it is to understand how to create the conditions of peace. And those are the conditions of the Sustainable Development Goals. As you rightly said, although one of them, Goal 16, references peace and rule of law, etc., it has to be pervasive. When I was serving as High Commissioner, my boss then, and now chair of the elders that Ernesto Zedillo and myself participate in, Kofi Annan, brought out a very important report in which he linked peace, development, and human rights, that nexus. And I think that really is the key, and I'm sure we can discuss that further.
Thank you, thank you. Ernesto, you're also a former president of Mexico. You're an economist. Before that, you led as president a major anti-poverty, poverty eradication effort. And you've been one of the most outspoken proponents since then, since leaving office, for globalization that is more humane, that doesn't exclude people. Well, what are your perspectives on this relationship between peace building on the one hand, and these other goals?
Well, I think we can start making the argument by raising the question. Do we really believe that countries or regions or communities that are being affected, turned down by violence, by confrontation, by massive violations of human rights, have any opportunity to achieve any modicum of human, economic, social, and political development? And the answer is absolutely not. When I think about the country of this man, South Sudan, a country which became independent just a few years back, a country that deserves a chance to develop. But when I think about the conditions that have prevailed in that country, particularly in the last 3 years, I have to be terribly pessimistic that the South Sudanese people have any chance to have access to the most elementary aspects of economic, social, human development. And they don't have any chance because they have a civil war, they have a government who is massively abusing the population, a government that is using food to repress people, incredibly, a government that every few months, under the pressure of the international community, promises to do something to end this atrocity, and they don't do it, and nothing happens.
But you have to be a prisoner of hope?
Well, no, but I also have to, I like to dream, but I think action. And when I met this man a few months ago, I said, every time I have a chance, I'm going to speak about what's happening in your country. Because here we have 4 million people displaced. This is a massive human tragedy.
Yeah.
We have 6 million people who are under risk of starving because there is no food. And whatever food there is, the government uses it to put pressure so that you move to my side. Otherwise, I will starve your community and your people. So my point is very simple. I mean, this example is just to show that peace, rule of law, institutions that function is very important if you really mean to pursue the sustainable development goals.
Well, I appreciate both of your perspectives, and if I may say, I don't know if you've ever been compared to prison wardens before, but if you have to be a prisoner of hope, I think you sometimes need people to keep you there when you lose that hope, and each one of you is one of those prison wardens for me and for millions of other people. Emmanuel, I think probably the only reason you're not an elder is because you're not old enough. Sorry. You have time.
Approaching.
Yeah. But I mean, your story is just truly extraordinary, heartbreaking and inspiring at the same time. Much of your childhood was spent as a child soldier in the SPLA fighting in Ethiopia. You escaped. Many of your fellow child soldiers escaped with you, but died along the way. You made your way to Kenya, where you became an activist, a musician. You've now become a global performer. Your book and the film, Child Soldier, A War Child, A Child Soldier's Story, I think has really elevated people's awareness about this deep, deep problem that's plaguing humanity. So I'm really particularly interested also in your insight, especially having heard 2 former presidents speak about this issue. What is your perspective on the relationship between peace and peace building on the one hand and all of these other important goals on the other?
I think like my direction is going to shift because I didn't know the president was going to speak out and touch these issues. Like my childhood peace has been taken away. The soul of my village has been taken away. The war took the call of my family. My mom died during the war. All my aunties, all my uncles except 2, age of 7, became a child soldier. See the whole village, everything taken away. But as I talk to you now, the village or the area I come from, soldiers were rewarded if they could rape a woman. Baby's head was smashed on the walls. Young boys were castrated. Villages were burned down. And if there's any elders that have survived, that it will be a lucky one. And you see, even those under the protection of the UN themselves, the UN get invaded inside, and they do nothing. The other day I spoke to my brother, like I have, all my family members are in the refugee camp, all of them. And so here they see me, they communicate with me. One time, one of my brothers told me, the issue that is happening now, even with the peacekeeping force, the government bribed the peacekeeping force so they could go inside and catch whoever they want and bring them outside. So even people are not even safe. But I don't want to go there. First, what is peace? To me, I look at it. Peace is justice, equality, and freedom for all. Now, peace is conflict management. Peace is education. Peace is health. Peace is being able to pay your bills. The people in the Western countries have their own wars. Everybody's busy. You got the government, he wants his cut of your paycheck. Now you got everybody after you. You got the corporation messages in your head programming you to spend until you don't even know what you're buying. And so, if I look at it as one thing that opened my head this week, because I like to follow elders a lot, and I like to listen to the knowledge that they have. And I came across a quote that a Frenchman said. His name is Georges Clancias. I'm sorry, French people, if I didn't pronounce it right. He said, war is a too important business to be left to soldiers. And so if you look at that statement, how powerful it is industries are built on the back of poor people. Now, I remember when South Sudan was having peace and people would cry, where are we going to find our jobs? We have peace. We should celebrate that. And so it's a big business. Aid workers or aid organizations are established and they never enter. So other countries are threatened by South Sudan. And also you have the bigger countries that, look, if we can no longer colonize these people any longer, if we can make them to fight against each other, and then we take their resources at a cheaper rate. So we have to understand that as we push for peace, we need to raise our conscience. Now, I think at this stage now, human beings have become so intelligent and so smart, and there's many ways they could harm you, you wouldn't even see it. But I think the hope here to understand peace building, which is conflict management, is I think what we have to do is create conscious awakening. And this conscious awakening where each and every one of us goes inside, because 98% of most human beings are living their life in fear. Fear of poverty, fear of failure, fear of death, and many fears.
Thank you, Emmanuel. Two words have come out here that are sort of polar opposites in many ways of one another, fear and hope. And I don't in any way want to skip past the dire situations that each of you in particular has put on in before us. And yet I'm struck, in my own lifetime, and I'm not that old, but in my own lifetime, we've seen the end of violent conflict that people expected would never end in South Africa, in your country. Colombia is just moving now, and we can go on in Sierra Leone. And so I guess I want to really explore this nexus a little bit more because, Mayor, you've said that peace is not just a precondition for these other things, that we have to stabilize things and then it become a precondition for it. You've said it is actually an outcome and an indicator. So can you talk just a little bit more? There's some depth there beyond simply stability. It goes, I think, to Emmanuel's point that peace is more than just the lack of violence.
Well, I think, Emmanuel, you spoke so eloquently about, how pervasive the absence of peace is in destroying hope and in undermining livelihoods, creating fear, creating terrible atrocities. And I have seen that as High Commissioner. I've seen the worst of the worst. I believe that we actually need to see peace, as Kofi Annan said, peace, development, and human rights as a nexus. And therefore, if we're looking at the Sustainable Development Goals, that nexus has to pervade the whole of the Sustainable Development Goals, from tackling poverty to education to health to right through to climate change, because it's an essential prerequisite. We will not attain the Sustainable Development Goals unless we have a peace that enables people to breathe, to feel free, to feel they can do what they want to do for their families, and it's so kind of clear that you cannot do that if you have a situation of conflict. It is horrible that we now have another huge movement of people, of the poor Rohingya, who are the forgotten people, the marginalized. I was in Myanmar, and we were not supposed to use that name. We did. I was there with the Carter group at the elections, the last elections. The elections were incredibly hopeful because we arrived at 6 in the morning to check the election process, as the Carter Center does so well. And there was a queue that was as far as the eye could see. It was like South Africa all over again. And at the same time, there was this real sense of tension at that stage about the Rohingya. And I feel, when you see the stories and the horrible displacement and the burning of their houses, even as they leave them, once again, we're seeing what is equivalent to an ethnic cleansing. I mean, there's no other way to describe it. And the numbers are incredible. There's over 600,000 already, and there's 15,000 a week crossing the border. And they have nowhere to go in Bangladesh. They are more and more in very bad situations. This is why we need to elevate peace to a very special sort of place in the Sustainable Development Goals, and understand that unless we can create a world where there is that sense of rule of law, of institutions that support, of safety for people, of security at a very basic level, then we're not going to get that development in human rights. And you know, I think it's just so crucial, and therefore I would like to see the indicators cross-cut to really make it clear that rule of law and achievement of peace is fundamental to development, fundamental to tackling climate change, fundamental to justice, fundamental to all of these issues.
Well, you know, we're gathered here towards the end of the convening of the UN General Assembly. This may be one of the most watched UN General Assemblies, I think, in many years, because I think there is a sense globally that the world is at somewhat of an inflection point, and there are forces that are advocating for advancement of the Sustainable Development Goals and collective action, and powerful forces that are actually questioning the entire enterprise. And I guess, Ernesto, you've talked about, you know, the fact that advancing peace is not just the purview of governments, and the elders in general make this case very strongly, which is particularly compelling coming from them because many of you are former government leaders. You've reached the pinnacle of political power. But how do you engage everyone? What are the mechanisms for mobilizing, engaging, inspiring people well beyond governments?
Well, we cannot free governments or those who have the power and the force. We cannot free them from their responsibility. I think peace is first and foremost a responsibility of those who have the capacity to fight others, to repress others, to intimidate others. Now, sometimes are situations of conflict when the other part may have a good reason, but they are also recalcitrant to give up violence. So I think that's when it is important to remind people, those people, how costly their actions are, and that fortunately humanity, a long time ago, we invented two wonderful things. One is politics, you know, and the other one is diplomacy, right? And that actually when very serious problems have been solved is because we have applied ourselves to use these wonderful instruments, which at the end imply commitment, responsibility, compromise. You mentioned, and I am very proud of that, because that happens in my region, the situation in Colombia. I mean, this was a problem, very serious problem for 50 years. When President Santos started this, he was criticized, he was questioned, he was attacked. He continues to be attacked to this day by very important people in Colombia. And now we know that he was right, that it was possible, that even the other side, the recalcitrant side, could sit down to have a dialogue, and that a compromise was possible for everybody involved. And I think this is a wonderful example of using politics and using diplomacy. And there is another case which I want to mention very quickly because it is putting at risk many things. I think the other great achievement we have heard in the last few years is the Iran nuclear agreement. So I am deeply disturbed when this achievement of international diplomacy is being put into question by false arguments. And I say that because I think this is very important. This is a good example of what diplomacy can achieve. And also because we, the elders, somehow, you know, were part at least of the encouragement to push for this. I mean, we didn't play any, I guess, we just did what we can do as elders. But I think it's very important to speak out at this moment.
Well, I agree with everything that Ernesto has said, but I think your question was also saying, peace is also about what others can do, what
Yeah.
broader civil society can do. And I just wanted to mention our celebration of being 10 years as elders on the 18th of July last at a wonderful event in Cape Town. Cape Town was the right place. Our former chair, Archbishop Tutu, was there. We were able to meet with him privately because he wasn't well enough to come with us on the march. But we all marched together, and we launched a walk in each other's shoes, a walk together, deliberately to have a year leading up to Mandela's birthday next year, the 18th of July, when it will actually be his 100th birthday. And what we want to do is tackle all the awful underpinning racism, hate speech, xenophobia, anti-Semitism, all of these things, walk in each other's shoes, try and understand the other, the migrant, the refugee, and try and actually get civil society in a very large way to join with us. And a hero, it was like the Pied Piper in Cape Town, was Emmanuel, because the children all followed him, and young people. You should have seen it. I mean, maybe you could see it on stream or something. It was fantastic, and it was a great...
He's cool.
Yeah, he's cool. It was a great celebration in many, many ways.
Absolutely.
No, but on this point, if I was mentioning the Iran situation, it's exactly because of what Mary said. Here you have the great power speaking out something that the state of that great power negotiated along with others. It's a great achievement. But if it is really destroyed, at least as far as the US is concerned, I think civil society must react to that.
Yes, absolutely.
You know, because it's not that a minor thing is at stake. I think this is a planetary issue. So in that case, political and civil society pressure becomes extremely important.
So thank you. And you're reminding us of the importance, and you're forcefully reminding us of the importance of political leadership to do what's right.
I'm very emotional since,
of course,
because what happened in my country. So I apologize.
And we do pray for the victims of the earthquake and those that are still being searched for. Thank you very much. Emmanuel, you know, your journey is so unique, and you know, you're on this stage with you know, people who reach the pinnacle of political power and leading marches like the Pied Piper. And it's a lot of a burden to put on you, but I'm going to ask you anyway. Help us ground what we're talking about to, you know, where young people in particular live day to day. What would make this more real in young people's lives? And I guess the particular question I have to you is, you know, we have millions of people watching. What would you like to see more from, or perhaps less from, our political leaders today in order to really engage and mobilize youth in the way that they can be?
Well, I have some young people who send their messages on Global Citizen.
Look at that, you were prepared.
So before on my own view, the way I look at it is, the knowledge I have now, the way I've established myself and the things that I do, was because of my respect for elders. You know, Nelson Mandela.
It's great to hear you say that. You know that? Yeah. It really is. No, it really is.
It's the truth, because observing the elders, that's how I fed my soul. But finding the good elders, because there's some who are really nuts out there. So, yeah. So finding the good
name
ones.
Names. Let's keep moving, but that's okay.
Like, I'm sitting next to two amazing. So, listening to my whole body, I've trained my body to feed on positive words. Anything that is negative, it's blocked immediately. It's shut it down. Because I realized that food that my soul eats activate positive emotion that makes me wake up the next day. You know, every person has got a problem. Every person, something is disturbing them. Every person has a story. No poor person is asking for handouts. A poor person just respect me and give me my space. And I have my own dreams. Every person has. Respect for elders. If we're able to bring that back, like, that will really change, because a lot of elders have got a lot of wisdom we can learn from. And a young person here said, is from the Southern African Regional Age Network, has said, to foster peace, we must learn from each other. We can all benefit from the amazing experience of all the people. And then we have another person here. So some of them are really good, and some of them will challenge our paradigms. Peace is everybody's day job. Our children deserve more than half a chance. So this texts were inspired by Walk Together campaign, the one organized by elders. And the reason I'm saying we should support the elders and also listen to them is because they have a vision, they have an experience, and as we existed as human beings, has always been our elders that taught us before there were schools. It's the elders that we sit under the trees, they sing us songs, they tell us stories. And now, because nowadays there's books and institutions established, we lost that respect. A teacher will shout out, a student shout out at teachers. In the conversation you were saying earlier that in your culture, if an elder walked in a room, everybody kept quiet. We had that, but nowadays it's no longer like that. But also the elders had to carry a certain level of respect, for them to get that much respect from young people. So we have another from Nodi, IPP has said, with determination, courage, humility, and dignity, there are ways to use the strength and force of the bullies so that they become the keepers of peace and the purveyors of kindness. This is a way for bullies to receive the respect they so deeply deserve. There's something I like about this, because bullies are cowards. And so they build big walls. They have armies. We have two cool presidents here. They have no guards because they didn't cause harm to anyone. So they are not worth killing at all.
And what you've just read, I want to point out for our viewers, these are responses to the hashtag Tell the Elders campaign, to communicate with the elders and give your best ideas for how to advance peace and development. So I encourage people to participate in that campaign. I want to end with one other question. Oh, please.
I really wanted to make the real value of this campaign is it's not about the elders. It's about communities all around the world who are working for peace, working for showing the idealism that we saw in those quotes, and sparks of hope. We're going to have 52 sparks of hope. We want to have 100 good ideas that we can actually bring through this process, ultimately to the General Assembly of the United Nations on behalf of, and it's a mobilizing for that walk together for peace that we're talking about.
Thank you.
And I would say it's also about Madiba.
Yes, very much so.
And you would say, why? Well, because today, under the conditions we are going through, and Kofi Annan used, I would say, a very tough expression only 2 days ago. I read it in the New York Times by characterizing some of the leaders that are now leaders. I think at this moment in which many things we have taken for granted seem to be vanishing before our eyes, I think it's very important to remember the kind of life, the kind of leadership, the kind of inspiration that Mandela left to the world, and use that example to say it is possible to do different. If this man who spent 27, 28 years in jail could go out
and forgave his jailers.
Yeah, well, but built a country anew. And give us an incredible example. Then I think that, for me, is something very important to make some leaders of today accountable for all the things that are wrong that they are doing.
You're not
so I think
thinking
it's
of one
about
particular
Mandela.
one, are you?
More than one.
So, as we wrap up here, you know, I'm just struck. I know when we do our work at Search for Common Ground, many of the situations we look at look hopeless from the outside. And when you go in with a mindset of what's going wrong, you become cynical very fast. But when you go in saying, you know, I want to look for where there are these nodes of hope, they're everywhere, everywhere. And if you don't go in with that attitude, you just dismiss them. And on behalf of myself, my organization, I think I can speak on behalf of the millions of people following this. I want to thank each and every one of you for being one of those nodes of hope that's really shining brightly enough that the whole world can see. So thank you very much, and thank you all for following us.
Okay, thank you.
We're going to clear the stage for a moment, and then Emmanuel is going to treat us to something that I could not do, and it's going to be worth saying for.
Okay.
So,
thank you.
Yale, and I'm going to share my story with you. I was born in the most difficult times when my country was at war.
I was forced to be a war child.
I'm a war child, and I get
Education has rescued me. Education has elevated me and has opened my mind. So I want to use my platform to give other people opportunity. Finding them scholarships, where I founded a charity called Go Africa to help me build school in my country.
Oh yeah, I'm looking for some people who's looking for peace. Maybe together we could make the war cease.
Music is the only thing that has power to enter your cell system, your mind, your heart, influence your soul and your spirit. The line to strengthen my emotion is, all I gotta do is shine some light in this darkness and I'll be all right. And I have another line which says, I sold my soul not for silver and gold, but to tell a story that needed to be told.
Stand up, come on, everybody come on. Stand up, stand up, stand up.
I'm calling out to the whole wide world. Help me scream and shout that we want peace. Big love to Emmanuel Jal.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, I'm looking for some people that's looking for peace. Maybe together we could make the war cease. Send mankind to the moon. We can bridge to the bottom of the sea. That's why it's really kind of baffles me that we cannot end wars and bring peace. We cannot change the way people act. We cannot change the way people think. So if we sit back, chill out and relax, civilization will soon be extinct. That's why I am. More volume on the speaker. I'm calling on the whole wide world. Come on people, will you help me? Let's scream and shout, cause we want peace. To say the least, I dedicate this song to the common people, caught in the middle of this common evil. I wish the world was a little bit fatter. Time we start looking at the man in the middle. Fear is their policeman. Fear me good genocide with Idriss so he can be the war of genocide of it was weekend. Silent of the lamb cause nobody was speaking. That's why I am. I'm calling on the whole wide world. Yeah. Come on people, will you help me? Let's scream and shout cause we want peace. To say the least, somebody said after Rwanda. And after Rwanda, not far from Rwanda. Who's gonna shout for the poor people living in Darfur? The world gone deaf The world gone blind, the world busy sitting down on the behind. Nobody cared about the poor and needy, too busy stacking up to the rich and the greedy. For every hero there's a villain, I ain't kidding. We're gonna shout standing up or sitting. One more time, we got no more time. We gotta figure out a way that we could all combine. Like Jericho, the wall comes tumbling down. The sound of voices start to see surround. You know what it's worth. Time to put a voice to work. We gotta shut down heaven and earth. That's why I am. Let me see your peace sign, everybody. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Come on, people. Would you help me? Let's scream and shout, cause we want peace. Yeah, to say the least. Come on, everybody, come on. Come on, everybody, come on. Hands up, hands up, hands up, hands up, hands up, hands up. Let me see your hands up, all right, everybody. We want peace, and we are gonna get it. We're gonna get it, we're gonna get it. We want peace, and we are gonna get it. We're gonna get it, we're gonna get it. We want peace. We want peace. We want peace. We want peace.
We want peace.
We want peace.
We want peace.
And we are gonna get it.
We're going to get it.
We are gonna get it. Come on, everybody, come on. Hands up, hands up, hands up.
We want peace.
We want peace.
We want peace.
We want peace.
Thank you. I'm going to do you guys a spoken word called Forced to Sin. Then after that, we're going to end it with a party. It's been a good day, is it? Yeah! It's been a good day. So today is International Peace Day. There's a lot of things happening. You know what's happening in Mexico, the hurricane in the Caribbean countries, South Sudan, Myanmar, all over. So we just want to, let's make maybe like 10 seconds of silence to send them in positive energy. Thank you. So I want to do a spoken word called Forced to Sin. And seeing I'm in the US, it's a cool thing because you guys love hip hop. Yeah. And so when I say forced to sin, you guys say forced to sin to make a living. Can we say that? Forced to sin. Forced to sin to make a living. Forced to sin. Forced to sin to make a living. So I want you guys to say so that the camera can pick it and the people in the bedroom, even those who are listening, so go with me. Forced to sin. Forced to sin. Forced to sin. Sometimes you gotta lose to win. Never give up. Never give in. My dreams are like torment. My every moment. Voices in my brain of friends that were slain. Friends like Loal who died by my side of starvation. In the burning jungle and the desert plain. Next was I, but Jesus heard my cry as I was tempted to eat the rotten flesh of my comrade. He gave me comfort. We used to raid villages, stealing chickens, goats, and sheep. Anything we could eat. I knew it was rude, but we needed food. And therefore I was forced to sin. Forced to sin. Forced to sin. Forced to sin. Sometimes you gotta lose to win. Never give up, never give in. Left home at the age of 7. 1 year later, I live with an AK-47. By my side, slept with one eye open wide. Run, duck, play dead and hide. I've seen my people die like flies. But I've never seen a dead enemy, or at least one that I've killed. But still, as I wonder, I wouldn't go under. Guns barking like lightning and thunder. As a child so young and tender, words I can't forget, I still remember. As the sergeant command, raising his hand, no retreat, no surrender. Forced to sin. Forced to sin. Forced to sin. Sometimes you gotta lose to win. Never give up, never give in. Yigish, I carry the burn of the trauma. War child, child without a mama, still fighting in the saga. Yet as I wage this near war, I'm not alone in this drama. No sit or stop, as I reach for the top. I'm fully dedicated like a patriotic cop. I'm on a fight, day and night. Sometime I'm doing wrong in order to make things right. It's like I'm living a dream. First time I'm feeling like a human being. The children of Darfur, your empty bellies under telling us you that I'm fighting for. Left home, don't even know the day I'll ever return. My country's war-torn. Music I used to hear was bombs and fire of guns. So many people died that I don't even cry no more. Ask God question, what am I here for? Why are my people poor? Why and why? When the rest of the children were learning how to read and write, I was learning how to fight. Had snails, vultures, rats, snakes, and anything that had life, I was ready to eat. I know it's a shame, but who's to be blamed? Forced to sin. Forced to sin to make a living. Forced to sin. Forced to sin to make a living. Forced to sin. Forced to sin to make a living. Sometimes you gotta lose to win. Never give up. Never give in. Let me see your power sign. We do it for the gay rights. We do it for refugees. We do it for all the human rights out there. You promise to stand. Let me see it. Peace. For those who are watching, we'll keep the fight going on. Thank you. So the last part is about to get done. So this is where we get to embarrass everybody. Chris, understand, you want to come on the stage. You're going to twerk today. Come on. Come on. Come. Yeah. Everybody else, you can stand up. I'm going to show you the dancing style. She did it when in South Africa she danced, and all the kids thought she was cool. So you're welcome to, Madam President. You're welcome to. So Rocky, come on stage. Yeah. Come on. It's an easy thing. Even everybody can do it. If Ban Ki-moon can do it, you can do it. You're welcome. Yeah, it's easy. The coolest thing. Yeah, come on stage. Awesome. So everybody, the dance style is easy. Come on stage. Represent Mexico. All right. So everybody look for space, okay? Look for space and look at my legs. So we got to go like this. 1, 2, 3, boom. 1, 2, 3. Ta 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 ta. Boom. Pa 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 pa. To the side, like that. To the side, ha, ha. To the side, ha. Let me tell you the advantage of this dance. It has got anti-aging properties. It boosts your immune system. It increases your metabolism. There's good things about it. So it has substance that make you happy without your permission. So let's go one more time. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. To the side. We go like that. Okay, just follow me. All right, pump the music up. Let's have fun, everybody. Yeah, play. I want to hear it louder than that. I can't hear it. We want to feel the beat. Come on. Do the best, baby, oh, do the best, baby, do the best, baby, oh, do the best, baby, one more time. Do the best, baby, oh, do the best, baby, do the best, baby, oh, do the best, baby, everybody. Shakar kabar, sharo darinjara get with manga shada last year. A bit confused, let me tell what's just come by. I rock with a bit my demon fly. But yeah, the more I put my tie, I smile like la pa wing my eye.
this way, this way. I do this way, this way, this way. You got stress. There's no money. Girlfriend gone. Boyfriend gone. Mashakal me one kalong. Shortland Johnson. One more time. Shabanka, 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 shabombol. Hey! Ashabombo. Hey! Ashaganka, shabanka, shaganka, shabanka, shabombo. Hey! Ajabombo. Hey! Ashabombo. Hey! Hey, bule, 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 bule. Bule nanga nation, shuneka yama boo. Hey, bule, shuneka yama boo. Everybody, here we go. One more time. Is everybody having a good time? Are you having a good time? Let me see both of your hands up. Everybody, hands up. Go with me like this. Go around, turn around. The other way around again. Give somebody a high five. 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 All right, everybody's time to go crazy. All right, let me see those minutes. All right. Okay, hold it down. Go with it. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, Emmanuel, you are one of a kind. That was incredible. Oh. So we're pretty much done. You know, 4 years ago, I had a breakfast with Jeff Skoll and Sally Osberg, and we just started dreaming about what might happen if we started to work together. And that breakfast has led to so many extraordinary things. Sally, Jeff, if you can hear us, we are so grateful for what this partnership has become and for all that's come from it. Today was the first, really special. To the UN Foundation, thank you for being part of this. You know, to the teams from these three organizations, to put on a day like this takes an absolutely unbelievable effort. And really just thanks to everyone behind stage, to everyone who's involved, bringing the speakers together. I know that was a huge effort. And to the people who presented today, I was so inspired. Everything I heard, you know, there's just been a remarkable collection of voices. I know all of us at TED have felt incredibly honored to have all of you here. The world seems a scary place at the moment to some, but we're humans. We have this superpower. We can look at what's happening. We can dream of something better. We can share it with each other. We can persuade each other to work that little bit harder, that little bit wiser. That's what's been happening today. It's been remarkable, and it's been an honor to have you here with us. I hope we can all continue the party tonight and celebrate. So, thank you.
Let me just add my thanks to Chris's, especially to our indefatigable teams from the UN Foundation, from TED, and from the Skoll Foundation. So bravo, bravo. And what a day it's been, right from the first moonshot and the encouragement to be responsibly irresponsible and passionately dispassionate, right on through the day where gauntlets were thrown down and picked up, reminding us that the potential really is in our hands. The models for change, all of which had assets, some of them right under our nose, the human capital, the financial capital, redeploying in creative ways to make great things happen in the world. And who can forget that remarkable moment when the Team Rubicon founder talked about shifting the talent of the military from the battlefields of war to the battlefields of disasters. It was incredible and incredibly, incredibly powerful. And to end on this note where we are literally dancing our way off the stage, recovering our joy, recovering our power, recovering the will to go forth and make wonderful things happen in the world. But first, we're going to dance our way, as Chris said, to continue celebrating over to the rooftop of the Hotel Hugo. So we invite you all to join with us there, and I'll let Rick wrap us up here.
So my name is Rick Parnell. I'm the Chief Operating Officer of the UN Foundation. And before I say profound thank yous to TED and to Skoll for this partnership, you know, a year ago when we got together and we thought, what could Global Goals Week be? And we had no idea that it would turn out the way it has. You know, a year ago, we were talking about the global goals, and we were trying to convince people of what they were and why they should be involved. And I don't know about you, but being around New York City for the last week, and everybody's wearing a pin, everybody's talking about the goals, everybody's doing action on the goals. This has been an incredibly inspiring day. It's just, I've been doing this for 16 years, and I've never seen anything like this. Just imagine what we can get done by 2030. A very special thank you to TED. Sally, when we sat down with your team at the beginning of the year and we said, what if? And TED came into the conversation, it just, who knew? This has been an amazing day. Don't forget, use the hashtag global goals. Hopefully we'll see you here next year. To be determined, I think maybe so. But you heard it.
Why not?
It's done. So when the UN challenged us on the goals a couple of years ago, this is exactly the kind of thing that they were talking about. So a very special thank you to all of our teams. A huge thank you to my team at the UN Foundation for putting this all together with Sally's team and with the TED team. So let's go have a drink. If you're watching online, have a drink at home. Thanks, everybody.